The attempt on his life is likely a political winner. I don't mean to reduce everything to politics, but after all, that is the world we're in now. Now that Trump survived, and survived, it seems, with what is equivalent of a flesh wound, essentially, and he played the moment. I mean, Trump, always aware of the visuals, he played the moment. The fist in the sky, the defiant look, the blood on his face. I mean, look, I don't think this is, I always was hearing that in the hours later, and you always hear this kind of thing. It was staged. It was certainly
even
not
with the flag
staged.
in the background. It sure is the perfect shot, though.
Right. And I think that is the case, that it was so lucky and so perfect and such a clean escape with the backdrop exactly as you might have scripted it, that it almost felt as though it was something, and, most of all, that the candidate is essentially unharmed. Most of all, with that said, it did seem like the kind of thing you would fake just that way. But there is absolutely no way it was a fake. I think that is I get it, staged. I see we run as SJ, fake. No, I just don't buy it. The 20-year-old, I will get to a description because I'm hearing different things. I will get to his background, why it's complicated, why we can't tell a lot about him. I do really want to talk to Gary Dietrich about the political agenda from here. Not so much that it's informed by this, although it is informed by this on some level. I'll give you an example of why it's informed by this. And we're going to talk more about this, too. I'm seeing it. Karen Q thinks it was staged. Okay. I just don't believe it's even a 1% chance that it was staged.
It's interesting. Vilma, among other people, have said that Trump is going to get a political bump from this assassination attempt. But I wonder why. I mean, why would that change anyone's vote or opinion of him? Because we feel bad for him?
No, it's not going to change your vote. I mean, this is the problem. The left cocoons themselves and goes, how can anybody be more sympathetic after this? The guy's still who he was before the shot was fired, which is, of course, true. But it's not your vote. It's going to animate his vote, his base, people who feel already that he's the aggrieved party. He plays the victim card all the time. This will help him play the victim card in an even greater way. And after all, to be fair, he was the victim. So I think there is that political calculus that goes into it. He will get a political bump, not from independents, not from Kim McAllister, but from his base that will get off the couch and be part of the effort now because they see a besieged president, former president, wannabe president. I also think that this is what I was going to say. There's something that you have to remember when you look at the rhetoric that was being used by the left, okay, by the Democrats, center left, whatever they are, the Democrats. I think they appropriately were saying, this guy's a danger to the institutions of America. He's essentially a governmental terrorist. Right. Look at the people around him. He and his henchmen are going to come in here, dismantle government. They're going to weaponize the Justice Department. They're going to, et cetera, et cetera. All of those things are true. You may have to back off on that a little bit now. You may have to back off on it because in an environment of recent political violence of this sort, anything that suggests that that guy's an enemy, anything that casts your opposition in the kind of stark language that I think is appropriate, but I'm suggesting can be now confused and mixed into this, well, look at how essentially the left and the Democrats are whipping up political violence, I think particularly Democrats will stand back from that because they don't want to be accused of that. It's the, typical Democrats always want to seem to do what is the right thing to do, so afraid of their own shadow. Mark, I think it will get a bump from independents. I think all the talk about dictatorship and Hitler has been over the edge, and this is the result that they got. So Mark Perrin, I would say you and I disagree about something. I'll get to the disagreement in a second, but you just agreed with me with your last part of your comment, which is what I was saying, that all the talk about him being a fascist in waiting, a rising despot, these are things that are true. But the reality is that verbiage you may have to dry clean from speeches for a while. I don't know what the cooling off period is, but it's certainly including this week, rather than keep it going and be accused of that feeding frenzy. Now, the other part of what you said, Mark, I forget. It was something about independence or...
We'll get a bump from independence.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, dude. That's weak sauce. That's the independents don't. They're not. You're burnt out on it. I get it. You, Mark, are burnt out on talk about Trump as Hitler or Hitlerian in some way or despotic in some way. You're burnt out on it. And so you're like more angry about it, like enough already. Okay. I mean, I can just as easily say, I'm over the weaponizing of the Justice Department thing that Trump says all the time. I'm just sick of it already, okay? I mean, the reason you got so many court cases against you, dude, is because you're a lawless freak. That's why you get it, okay? I mean, you believe the laws don't apply to you. And guess what? It looks as though they don't. But prior to the Supreme Court immunity decision, and even that still leaves open the door for prosecutions, the prosecutions and the indictments were appropriate. So, Angel in the Bay Area with a $5 super chat. Big shout out. Us non-Trumpers, see what I did there? Need to get off the couch because of this, too. Exactly. This election does come down to the couch. That's why I was mentioning the power of this event to animate his base, because the couch in American politics is a very powerful drag. Most people don't vote. The last election for president, you saw tremendous turnout, right? There was record turnout. I don't know that you're going to get that this time. You have a general kind of antipathy on the part of the electorate toward both these guys. I think neither candidate is particularly popular. And so I don't know that you're going to I think the couch may win on this one. And then at the end of it, it's, well, who actually got the vote out? And that's why this is a powerful event. How did someone get so close to the leading presidential candidate? The Secret Service didn't sweep the building before the Trump shooting. They farm out some of the police work, and they farm it out essentially like this. They have a perimeter, and that perimeter is established, and it is covered by Secret Service. So everything and everyone in that perimeter is covered by Secret Service.
And this building wasn't in the perimeter?
No, it was outside the perimeter. It was just outside the perimeter. So the next area outside the perimeter is an area that is oftentimes in situations like this farmed out to local law enforcement. So it's not as though they go to sleep on the rest of the area, but they farm it out to local law enforcement. Oftentimes, that's smart because local law enforcement knows the area, kind of knows where they can position themselves to maximally see what's going on. So it's not a completely stupid thing. In this case, there are reports coming out that the Secret Service didn't sweep that building from which the gunman tried to kill Trump. because they did just what I said, that they farmed it out to local law enforcement to secure the location. So you can see in the hours and days after, there will be a full investigation, and they'll be finger pointing both ways. Looks like the feds will be pointing at the locals, and the locals may be pointing back at the feds.
I was watching an interview with a man who witnessed the alleged shooter. I would think that we don't drop the alleged word now, but kind of climbing up the side of this building carrying a rifle.
Yeah.
And they were trying to point to officers on the ground saying, listen, look at this guy up here, somebody do something. And it wasn't until after the guy was already up on top of the roof and set up that anyone noticed.
That's right. There were screams and people pointing to the gunman. This guy, Thomas Crooks, he's 20 years old.
Looks like I don't understand that part of the security. It seems not.
Yeah, when they're yelling gunman, there's a guy with a gun up there. Like, really, dude? Like, there's not, no one's going to respond to that.
There he is.
Tony,
yeah, that guy.
Yeah, this is, by the way, here's an interesting little digression or side note. That guy he's talking to is with the BBC.
Right.
He's a longtime BBC journalist, and he's blind.
Oh, okay.
He has a great track record and is a really fine journalist. As I say, he's been with the BBC a long time. He has a producer that sort of takes him from here to there, but he still gets the story, even though he is blind. But yeah, this guy was there at the rally, and these guys, the guy on the left, he and his friends set up outside the kind of general perimeter where everybody's being checked for weapons and all the rest. They kind of just hung out back. They could still hear it, he said. This is what the guy was saying. He could hear everything, but he didn't want to go through the trouble of, like going through the magnetometers and all the other sort of screening that exists around the perimeter. So they hung out. And then he was one of the people who was yelling, hey, there's a guy with a gun up there. There's a guy with a gun. Go ahead and run what I've got for you, Tony. Let's see what I've now forgotten exactly what it is, but I think there's a piece on sort of the physical arrangement. This is kind of a setup piece, and then I'll play you one more. Go ahead.
Gunfire erupted at a campaign rally for former President Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, Saturday. Trump said a bullet struck him in the ear. Here's how the attack unfolded. President Trump was speaking from a stage located here, with Secret Service snipers in position on the roof of a building behind the stage. The suspected gunman was on the roof of another building less than 450 feet away from where Trump was speaking, with a clear line of sight.
And look what happened to our country.
Moments before the shooting, we can hear nearby spectators saying they see someone with a gun.
He's got a gun!
At the same time, while Trump speaks, the Secret Service snipers can be seen facing the gunman's direction. We see the agent on the roof pick his head up just before shots ring out at 6:15. Secret Service agents rush to pull Trump to the ground. As they rush him from the stage, bleachers behind where Trump was speaking. A spectator was killed and 2 more were critically injured at the event.
Yeah, it's fascinating. The guy who was killed, of course, was a firefighter who threw himself, I believe, over his family to protect the family. Isn't that right?
Yeah. His wife and daughter. That's right.
Yeah. So you see a little bit there between that and kind of what I was just telling you. You see a little of how it happened and why it could happen. We'll talk more about this with Gary Dietrich and about the political fallout. I did want to mention the other thing that was going on this morning, and it is quite extraordinary because it's really Donald Trump, the escape artist. He's an escape artist like no one else. I mean, who could think that you could jack from the U.S. government thousands of top secret classified documents, some of the biggest military secrets. So sensitive is this information that in the processing of how they would handle this court case, they had to get top level clearances for the lawyers involved so that they could review the documents that were then going to be at the center of this entire court case. That's how sensitive these documents were. They were taken from the White House and they were put in bathrooms, showers, ballroom, bedroom, office, closet, thrown in with golf shoes, with T-shirts. And then, of course, to remind you, when the government said, hey, we haven't gotten these documents back and we really need them back, there were efforts made, successful efforts, to turn over a small portion of them and claim that that was everything. I mean, there was a sworn statement signed by Trump's attorney saying that's everything. And then when the government served additional subpoenas, there was an effort made to move the documents, to hide the documents from the government. And so that part of the case, which clearly was designed to evade the reach of the government and hang on to these documents for unclear purposes, that part of the case, again, damning. I think there's a lot of stink on it. It will never reach Trump because this remarkable escape artist will escape from this, what I feel is the most damning, easily understood, and inexplicable case. There's no good explanation for what he did.
So Judge Cannon ruled that having the special counsel, Jack Smith, was unconstitutional. Does that mean that the other cases are in jeopardy because of her ruling as well? And could the government refile this documents case in another court against him?
The prosecutorial power wielded by special counsel Jack Smith is perfectly legal. She, Eileen Cannon, suggests that it should have been appointed by Congress and that the funding for it, these are the two things, the appointment and the funding, that the funding should have come through Congress. It was inappropriately funded. Now, this isn't true. It can be appealed. Look at all the other special counsels. There's a special counsel in the Hunter Biden case. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to, stay on the Republicans, and you'd have to go back and rule that the special counsels on the Hunter Biden case and on many other cases are appointed illegally. But it's clearly not accurate, and this will be overturned on appeal. But the point is that she has, as she has done so dutifully all along the way, delayed this now, so it will not see the light of day until maybe if Joe Biden is reelected or a Democrat is reelected, the next administration. But it's very likely it won't see the light of day because it's also very likely that Donald Trump will be the next president. So that's where we sit on that. It's a massive win. I mean, a seismic victory for Donald Trump. So what a weekend for Donald Trump. I mean, he escapes death or injury, serious injury anyway, and he escapes what would be a devastating court case if it ever saw the light of day, the documents case. It is completely scuttled. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.